Hi, everyone. Thank you for attending. This is Werner. I'm Director of Sales for North America for Retrospect. I see a lot of names I know. I'm actually here just to give a quick introduction. We at Retrospect, are constantly promoting and explaining the benefits and the necessity of a 3-2-1 backup strategy, air gap storage, long-term backups and everything else. But now with the acquisition from StoreCenter, we're really able to get out there and we're finding some great partners that we're able to provide another level of security. So instead of, yes, respect it from a backup point of view, at the end of the day is what you're going to need to make sure you have a solid backup. But even better than that is making sure that the networks stay clean and secure so that that data never gets to those networks to begin with. So we actually have next on here from BrightGate, who will be going over what they can do, how they can provide an additional level of security. So that way, as your clients are being backed up, as they're being their data is being protected, that you're able to basically clean the data and scrub the data before it ever gets to those networks. So I'm just going to toss it over to Nishant. If you have any questions as we go along, feel free to type it in and let me know, and I will pass it along to him. Nishant?
Thanks so much, Werner. Hello, everyone, and thanks for your time this morning or afternoon, depending on where you're located. As Werner correctly pointed out, right, we've noticed here at BrightGate that the recent threats have evolved from being device-centric or just being malware on a particular laptop to basically being targeted towards NAS systems and more focused on going after ransomware, where there is a lurking predatory software sitting on your device. And that could be a NAS system, it could be a Mac, it could be a Windows machine as well. And usually the perpetrator is holding that device at ransom and asking payment to be made either via Bitcoin or a wire transfer before the control of that device is released back to the user. And in the last 3 years, the threats have now consistently been focused on the ransomware side. So we figured the leadership at Retrospect was kind enough to look at a potential partnership with a networking solution like ours. And the goal of our conversation today is talk to you a little bit about what BrightGate does and focus on the extent of what we can do together with the Retrospect solution. Just to kind of put this out there will be a few forward-looking statements here because we're still trying to figure out the exact workings of our products together, but we thought it was a good idea to put in front of this very competent audience like yourself and get feedback on whether this makes sense, whether this can be accretive to your business. But primary goal is to drive awareness around the BrightGate solution and what we've built at BrightGate. So with that, the format of the conversation is I have about 6 slides. I should take between 15 to 20 minutes to just go through the slides, and I'll spend the remaining 20 minutes on a demo and keep the back 20 for potential questions or closing comments from Werner or Brian and myself. Thank you so much. So with that, here's a little background on the team at BrightGate. Unlike most startups that you will see in the Valley, we've been around for 3 years now, and our team is pretty well experienced in the sense that most of us have over 20 years of experience having worked in the networking business or on Open Solaris. And my background stems from building firewalls at Cisco. I used to be the lead product manager for the Cisco ASA and the Cisco PICs, and since have spent a lot of time in early stage startups, including BrightGate. A little bit of background around the BrightGate solution. What we've built over the last 3 years was built in concert with managed service providers and managed security service providers. A large part of our focus was looking at small to medium businesses and small to medium enterprises, because the large enterprise, by virtue of a deeper pocket for capital expenditure as well as operation expenditure, can afford the complicated tools, whether they come from a Cisco, a Palo Alto, a Splunk, a McAfee, and put together a solution that works for their network environments. But when you play that same scenario down for cybersecurity protection, especially towards the SMB and in the wake of the rapid adoption of cloud services like Office 365 and G Suite in the SMB, you have a different beast to deal with. So first things, you have to make it super simple for the client as well as their enabler, who is typically the MSP, to understand and deploy security at scale, to provide them the right tools so that in the event of a threat, like a ransomware or a malware attack or a denial of service attack, you have the capabilities to not only reduce the threat of a complete outage, but to isolate the systems that will be under threat or are a source of threat and take remedial action while the network is alive and running. So enabling solutions like that requires understanding the security stack and automating a large part of that, and providing cloud-based access is the order of the day. So what we built at BrightGate is a cloud-based local networking solution that combines Wi-Fi, Ethernet capabilities, and VLAN segmentation, and provide a lot of automation on enabling these services together. This is an appliance form factor that basically is deployed at the client side. So it gives us the capability to identify threats and provide remediation right off the bat because we're present over there. We're basically fully integrating cybersecurity capabilities. We've added a base firewall feature. We do long-term intrusion prevention detection and threat analytics in the cloud. And a key capability that we've added is the ability to proactively provide vulnerability scanning, or what some of you may call penetration testing. What the system can do, because it sits on the local LAN, is for every device connecting in, whether it's an IoT camera, it's an employee laptop, it's a mobile phone, it's a printer, or even like a coffee machine that we're seeing in small to medium business environments, we can go in and scan that device proactively to figure out if there is a threat lurking on that system. For IoT devices, we can go in and actually scan for popular passwords which have not been changed since the device shipped from its location, typically from China or Indonesia. And we've seen in the last 2 years, like threats like Mirai were targeted towards a very base level Linux stack that had a default password. And using those passwords, the perpetrators in an overseas country was able to control the entire network or a network infrastructure. With BrightGate, we can automatically identify that a threat is in the form of an unchanged password, or if there is a stack which is compromised, and we can automatically change the state of that device, which is provide restricted access, move it to a separate VLAN until it gets remediated. And all this happens without the interception of an administrator or an MSP. So a large part of this is the automated capabilities will be built right in. What we've also seen in the last few years is that more and more managed service providers, as well as their customers, are very easily moving to the cloud via Office 365. Microsoft has a very compelling offering by putting all the Office services together, including security, as well as G Suite. So Microsoft, I say in 7 out of 10 customer sites, G Suite in 3 out of 10. And what we've done is to remove one of the biggest calls into an MSP, which is, oh, I've forgotten my password. We basically integrated network authentication for employees right with the cloud services. So if someone calls in and says, you know what, I need you on site right now because my employees are locked out, we're using the BrightGate product as an MSP. You can remotely point them to the management UI, which I'll show you in a bit. And the user or the administrator who's local to that network can easily change the password. So you no longer have to have a truck roll or basically spend an hour of your time on supporting like simple issues like password changes. The other thing that we do is basically provide ongoing compliance reports. You can roll these up on a weekly basis, on an ongoing basis, and in the future we'll add these as a monthly or a quarterly report as well, that you can show your clients that, hey, as an MSP, these are the kind of services that we've enabled for you, which is the inventory of devices, the threats that have been automatically mitigated, the devices that were quarantined, the employee passwords that you were able to self-reset or basically self-serve, just enabling you as an MSP and the value you've provided for that client. And lastly, the integration with partners like Retrospect is super exciting because we're a network security solution. We rely on capable partners like Retrospect and Nexan. We basically have the ability now by integrating our solutions to identify there was a device which an employee was using. It was a Windows machine, and it was last backed up 4 hours ago or an hour ago. And the employee has now seen a threat which looks like a ransomware. So the BrightGate solution can automatically quarantine a device that has been infected by ransomware. And so the ransomware perpetrators do not have access to that device from the outside. In the meanwhile, the Retrospect solution can then figure out the last clean rollback that it can basically rely on to get rid of the ransomware. The user goes in, reverts the device back to the last known safe version. The ransomware threat is now mitigated. BrightGate will block that port from ever infecting that laptop so long as it relies on that network, as it's always connected to that network. And it just kind of remediates ransomware without you having to pay a threat going forward. The one thing about this capability is that this is still a work in progress. The team at Retrospect and at BrightGate is working closely together to figure out how this is going to play out in the UI and in terms of just product integration. So this is, I'd say, we're expecting this to come out in the early part of Q1 2020. So in terms of deployment, when you talk a lot about capabilities, people want to see, so what does this product really look like? So in the middle over there is the BrightGate Intelligent Gateway. What it does right off the bat when you deploy it is that it provides wireless access as well as wired access. And as soon as you connect it in the system on your network for the first time, you have 3 classes of kind of services available. You have the customer devices, which are secured. You see that in the middle with the Retrospect logo. That includes your list of all the employee laptops, your servers, your phone machines, your employee phones, as well as any other critical network infrastructure. For all the moving parts of a network, which is guest devices, whether you have an IoT camera, which is kind of not at the same level of security as everything else, it creates a separate ring or a separate environment that basically isolates all these moving devices from your secured assets. So that provides a layer of security right off the bat. And in the eventuality that one of these secured devices is getting compromised or is showing effects of being compromised, we automatically move it to a quarantine VLAN that allows the administrator or you as an MSP or the device to self-heal by applying a patch, especially with the Retrospect partnership. And so and until that device is now cleaned up, it's not allowed back into the secured environment or allowed to communicate with anything that is on the secured LAN. So this makes for a very clean automation of threats and basically curtailing the threat footprint from expanding in a network environment. BrightGate basically allows you to then have long-term access to all your configuration. So all the configuration and the system updates are stored in the cloud. So as an MSP, you don't have to roll out and do a physical deployment. You could ship any device out to a customer site. All the configuration and the management of that happens in the cloud. We basically provide all the identification and tracking capabilities that you need as an MSP to keep track of your inventory as well as your clients. We perform ongoing scanning on the device, every single device that connects to the network. We do offer long-term threat analytics in the form of a SIM, which is a security incidents and event manager, as well as a SOCAS, which is a security operations center as a service. We've integrated sign-on using G Suite and Microsoft, as I mentioned earlier. And as an MSP and an enabler of network solutions, you have all the remote management and monitoring capabilities that you need over a secure access VPN channel. So it just makes the deployment and ongoing maintenance of that super easy. So the typical use cases that we've seen, we've been deployed at close to, we've had about 50 units out. We've had live customers using this since early May. We have close to a dozen MSPs that are deploying us right now. And we've focused on the MSP use case because I think enabling MSPs is the order of the day in terms of providing effective security. And the use case has been primarily around fortifying access, where you make EAP access so simple and soluble for the small and medium business user that takes care of ongoing security for them. We allow VLAN separation without the complexity of like a Cisco switch or a router, just right off the box. And we basically make network analytics super easy for you as an MSP to understand and translate to your user base. Simplifying security is the mantra for the solution. So we profile devices using our AI engine. We're able to identify what kind of behaviors a particular device will exhibit on the network, and then hence perform threat quarantining and pen testing for that device. As I mentioned earlier, for any IoT system, we can do default password scanning in addition to the vulnerability scanning as well. So that's a great one-two punch to stop threats on their tracks before a device is compromised. And as an MSP, I think the sexiest part about this is there is no upfront CapEx. So versus a solution like a Sophos or even a Cisco or a Palo Alto, where you as an MSP or your client has to purchase expensive hardware and have the customer either absorb that, or you basically arbiter that over the course of whatever, 2 years or 3 years that you're in contracts. We believe in the model where we don't charge you for hardware at all. We basically give you the ability to deploy this and start getting profits from day one. And I'll talk about specifics of that further down the line. But essentially, we're just charging the users on the service on a monthly fee, and it's based on the number of users at a given site. What the BrightGate solution does, as for you as an MSP, is you can now consolidating a switch, a wireless access point, and a security firewall, an intrusion prevention system right into one. And it essentially covers your ongoing CapEx expenditure and consolidates that as well. And a lot of the services that you would otherwise have to pay someone else are included right in the cloud management portal, which includes the SOCAS as well as the reporting. So it just makes it a much more viable solution. So that's where MSPs have taken a liking to us, and we've been replacing a lot of existing solutions, even on like day zero. So let me get into the demo real quick, and then we'll come back into the sign-up process. So here is the management portal for BrightGate. You can access it using our homepage, brightgate.com, or basically go to the link that is provided every single MSP. As I mentioned earlier, we've tied into G Suite as well as Microsoft Office 365. So as a MSP or even your client, they can look at their site, or as an MSP, you can look at all your site using the Google service. I'm just going to use my BrightGate credentials to manage my set of systems that are under my surveillance. So this is your view as an MSP. You can pick a site. So this logo with the building is the BrightGate site. I can drop down and pick any other site. So basically I go in and you can basically pick and choose the different options. I'm just trying to see. Let me see what, I'm sorry, I just clicked on the wrong login credential. So that was my BrightGate login portal. And then I was going to show you a live site, which was, yeah. So this is, as an MSP, this is a restaurant in San Francisco. It's basically called Breaking Bread. And what I showed you at the top level was my management of the different sites. So I've basically logged in using a site-specific login at this point. Again, I was using my G Suite credential to look at this portal. Once I come in, I basically can see right off the bat the 3 different classes of networks. I have my authorized user network, which is using EAP, which is the strongest form of authentication into the network. And this is where you would have your set of laptops and your phones or the employee devices that the employees are bringing in. We have 2 levels of groups over here. You can think of these as trust rings or specific kind of access control rings. The core is where you would put your enterprise systems, and the standard is where all the employee laptops and the phone devices will log on. The devices network is your IoT network, and unlike the employee network, this uses a PSK mechanism. And the reason behind this is that when you've gone and tried to configure your Nest for a password, it just makes it easier to use PSK to enter that password. And what this does is that for every single IoT system, then it'll basically log on and use this IoT VLAN, which is segregated from your EAP. So you're getting physical separation of your assets right on the network, from managed devices to like IoT devices that you know nothing about. What you can do hereafter is see which devices have been in quarantine versus the ones that have been in the clear, and the result of quarantine is after the scan that happens. I'll talk about it in a bit. And then you have the guest network. So a common problem that we've seen, especially with SMB environments, is that you have employees that come in and walk out on a more or less periodic cadence. So we had one use case. We had the boyfriend of this lady who was let go. He was the IT administrator for this dental office. And once she was let go, he realized that he was unhappy about the whole circumstance. So they found out that this gentleman used to hang out in their parking lot after hours, and he was trying to hack into the different systems. He would change passwords. He would basically take systems down. In some cases, he tried to exfiltrate some data out of the system as well, which is to customer credentials. So we were able to go in and basically deploy BrightGate. And what happens with this is it just made it super easy to separate your employees. So if the employee left, her access was terminated because her Office 365 account was closed down. For the guest network, the user who was able to have guest network access did not have access to the EAP network anymore. So he was not able to exfiltrate any data. And then they were able to change the password and have that rolling for every single month. So the new password policies, which BrightGate made it super easy to manage and deploy. So we just remediated threats like that right off the bat. The other thing you will see over here is you can drill down and figure out the capabilities of the system. That's a snapshot of the device itself. It comes with 4 gigabit Ethernet ports, and then you have 2 Wi-Fi radios on it, 2.4 as well as 5 gigahertz. And then you can essentially have a distributed tree architecture for each of the LAN ports as well, and we'll continue to perform scanning for those devices that are downstream as well. This is the cool part now, which is you can go in and drill in and see what are the devices that are connected in. So as I mentioned earlier, this is a live setup. This is a restaurant in the Fort Embarcadero Center in San Francisco. They have a bunch of guest access because when someone buys a sandwich or they buy breakfast, they give them a wireless password. So you have a couple of devices that are logged in right now. You can see specifics around a device. It'll not only tell you what device it is as well as when it logged on, but it also tell you the signal strength. This is important in a small to medium business environment where typically you'll have someone call you and say, hey, I'm connected to the network, but I don't see why. And this helps you with diagnostics right off the bat. You can tell them like you're pretty far away, or there's a couple of walls, or you need like a satellite unit, and let me come and address the issue, or I'll ship you a unit for that. Where this is super interesting is that if you look at the vulnerability scan column, so when the device connected in for the first time, the vulnerability scan was then performed on that system, and we do this on an ongoing basis. This is a key difference between existing solutions as well as what you're seeing with BrightGate, because with existing solutions, you would need a separate set of tools to come in and perform pen testing or scanning of those systems. We do this right off the bat, and we do this in an ongoing fashion. Just takes away the headache associated with that. I was doing some tests on this network earlier, and I wanted to show you a couple of ways which you can see the different classes of devices. You have the standard devices which are connected, and these are basically the employees have used EAP authentication to log in, and you have a MacBook, you have a Linux device as well. But the one on top is the most interesting, right? We basically did a vulnerability scan, we found a threat on this, and this was placed in a quarantine VLAN. If you as an admin can come in, apply the patch, and then basically are in the clear, this will automatically move back to the standard network. And this is where it gets interesting with our partnership with Retrospect, which is if we detect ransomware on a device, we can automatically move it to a quarantine VLAN. The admin goes in and rolls back the image, or we automatically roll back to the last known clean image. Ransomware no longer exists on that device. We'll perform the scan on the network level and provide the privileges back to the system again. So then it moves back into the standard VLAN. You can then see the devices networks. You have a variety of devices over here. These are basically 2 cameras, which we have not named. The owner of this place is running like a Samsung setup. So in the next version, you'll see this automatically populate itself. And then you can see all the different guest users and when they've logged in and how long they were logged in for. So you're doing this for a given deployment, for a given customer, right out of the comfort of your home as an MSP or your office, or you could have a junior level employee provide this level of monitoring as well. And it takes away the guessing game from what's going on and why is there a particular outage.
We have questions that's come in.
Yeah.
One, can BrightGate get the credentials from Active Directory in regards to can the login to BrightGate use the Active Directory's users' credentials?
Yeah, great question. So we're running Radius right on our solution right now, and we've integrated with the public cloud services, and Active Directory uses Radius for that. So we can absorb those users in over Active Directory down the line as well. Yes.
And what do you determine? How do you determine the vulnerability threats, or what do you use to do that?
Yeah, so we're basically using a combination of Nmap scanning as well as Nessus scanning on the network. We go in and run the entire stack of scans for a device, depending on a device OS that's connecting in. We use the device-specific scan for that to figure out open ports or known vulnerabilities that exist, and we'll scan on that using an Nmap/Nessus scanning mechanism. Werner, any other questions?
No, excellent questions. So if you guys have any questions as we go along, I'll keep firing them over. So
thank you so much. Good interruption there, because this was the right time to ask that question. As you can see on the violations, the compliance report gives you not only the inventory of devices that are connected, number of live users, but I think the resolved violations are super interesting, because a lot of time with security, you're trying to establish value and you're trying to show people, like your customers, like what have you done over the course of the last quarter? And typically no news is good news. We know that as enablers of security, but to a customer, they're like, hey, my network's fine. I don't see what you're doing. And why am I paying you like this monthly fee or whatever that site fee is? And this is extremely helpful, which is we're basically going in and telling you, hey, we've resolved these violations because your employees were hanging out at Starbucks or wherever they were going after this. They were getting compromised when they were coming into the network setup. They were basically bringing these threats in. So not only have we identified a vulnerability, we've quarantined that particular employee or that device from infecting your other employees and other devices. We've just kept network uptimes up for you. And then this is simple, but it's amazing how older solutions still don't give like that view of, hey, so how many devices are connected to my network? What's the status of them? Like, have you guys seen anything that is awry on them that I need to go and remediate? And this gives you that in an automated fashion. And what's cool about this is it's already performed the scanning for you. So when you approach your client or you approach your customer, you're coming with the fix information or what to fix versus trying to identify where the threat lies. And that's the benefit of combining access along with security and providing an intelligent cloud engine behind that. The EAP enrollment and the guest user enrollment is exactly like how I showed you when I logged in. You can basically come in and have every single employee go in and self-provision themselves. If you really care about doing it for your clients, you can do this in a jiffy as an MSP as well. But I think clients like that experience of being empowered with their own password, and they can go change their password at any given time, which reduces the call time to an MSP. You can come in and provide different levels of access to your employee base. So you can provide a site-specific administrator. You can provide a group-level administrator as well. So depending on the hierarchy you have within your organization as an MSP, you can give different sites to different customer support folks or client support personnel. And it's just good to go right off the bat.
Another question.
Yeah.
My phone is on one VLAN and the IoT device is on another VLAN. How does the phone control the IoT device?
So that's an excellent question. So the privilege access, and there is more information in our admin guide, and I'll provide access to folks on this call as well. But we have, think of this as access control groups where you have as water flows from like the highest privilege group down to a lower level. So if you're on an employee network or basically in the core group, you can then access the IoT device and manage it without the IoT device going and trying to infect everyone else in the network level above that, right? So from a privilege standpoint, you as an administrator can use your phone and access anything that's on the IoT network so long as your phone is on the same network, which it shouldn't be, but you can force it to do that. Or if you're on the employee network, you automatically have access to a network that is a level below that. So the IoT network lies below the employee network, and the guest network lies below the employee network as well. So you as a manager or as an employee that is on that site can go in and configure and manage pretty much any single device as long as you have the right privilege. That's the most important part. Great question.
Yes, thank you. Oh, another question. Sorry.
Yeah.
How are problems, issues brought to our attention? Apps, text, or email?
So right now, you basically can get an email, or you can basically see the UX kind of bubble it up for you. Is if there is a preferred mechanism, which we prefer email and a text message, we can accommodate for that. The one cool thing is that the BrightGate support portal is built right into the management UI, and you can see this as an MSP if you want to flag or or drive the privilege of a ticket up for BrightGate to take a look at. You can essentially use that as well. Your customer sees the same BrightGate support URL in their administrative page as well. So both of you can log tickets or log complaints, and we'll provide support so long as it's related to the BrightGate solution with the right SLAs in place. Great question.
Okay, that's it for questions right now.
Fantastic. So that was, my goal was to give you a flavor of how simple it is to go through like multi-site as well as single site management. I've gone through most of that. What I will do is I will switch back to the slides just as a quick wrap up because I'm coming towards the last 8 minutes that I've allocated for myself. And what I was focused on is the business side of how you work with BrightGate and the Retrospect team. So what we've done is we realize as MSPs, you are busy, you have like maybe between 40 and 50 vendors, old and new ones, hounding you at different levels. And most of them require some kind of a unit commitment or a volume commitment with initial kind of CapEx fees to drop, just enable the product in addition to the time you invest as an MSP, as a tester. We've done away with all of that. As I said earlier, we've been working with like over a dozen MSPs to get the product off the ground. We're in partnership with like a few large MSP consortiums. You may be a member of those. And what we've done is to sign up using BrightGate. You just drop us a line, go to brightgate.com/product. It's a little form, or you provide Werner or Brian your email address and let us know that you're interested in evaluating BrightGate. What I will do, or someone from my team will send you a mutual NDA. It's a mutual NDA in the true sense of the word, and a truly non-binding MOU. The MOU says that you are interested in evaluating the BrightGate product. You obviously will not share details about it to competitors, yada, yada. But most importantly, it costs you nothing to sign up, and you can cancel the MOU at any time. So if it doesn't work for you, if you think you have existing solutions that are doing the job and BrightGate is not interesting right now, no problem, no questions asked, you're good to go. As soon as you finish the MOU and you basically think you're ready to start rolling this out for your own evaluation as well as to your customers, let us know and we'll ship you a system for your evaluation. The system for your evaluation helps because you as an MSP can put it in your own network, play with it in terms of whether you're an Office 365 shop, you have Active Directory, or you have G Suite, you can figure out the flavor of how this can scale in your network environment. What it also gives you a flavor of, how to run those compliance reports and send them to prospects as well as to existing clients. And we don't charge you anything for any appliance that goes out. So thereafter, if you tell me that, I need 5 appliances or 50 appliances to go out to these 50 clients, we're usually able to help you with those deployments and rollouts as well. The client information gets put into our cloud backend. The system gets built into the cloud for that particular client, and we can ship to that client directly. So you as an MSP don't have to hold inventory or inventory holding costs. The unit goes in, you can deploy it for the customer, and then you basically start billing them as a part of your billing fee. Once you sign the NDA and the MOU, we provide you pricing information. It's very in line with what MSPs want to see and what enables profits for them as well. So it's built for profitability right from day one with zero CapEx, licensing on a monthly basis based on the number of users. And as we add more capabilities with our Retrospect partnership, we'll make it super easy for you to have endpoint protection as well as network protection. And that'll be super exciting as an MSP to just kind of run with this versus having to deal with customers and understanding, why this is necessary for you and why you have to justify the cost and all the stuff that happens in terms of sales closing. We have good validation. We have MSPs that range from a 2-person shop managing 25 clients to a 5-person shop managing 200 clients, all the way up to like a 300-person shop that is managing 500 clients. All of them have had different experiences as they had different levels of scale. But the one thing that is common across all three is that, hey, this is built to go in, make it super easy for the MSP and the client base to understand networking, security, and then not have to worry about the upfront costs that are associated with a lot of security solutions. And it just makes it super easy from just a consolidation standpoint. I know these slides are probably hard to read because the font size is pretty small. You'll find all this information on our website as well as on our LinkedIn page. Follow us, drop us a line. We'd love to work with you and figure out how we can make you successful using a Retrospect and a BrightGate solution. So with that, I've come to the end of what I wanted to cover. It's been 38 minutes. I will spend the remaining time if we have questions, or give the remaining 20 to 23 minutes back to you to go on with your lives.
So I'll watch for question and said great solution. I mean, thank you so much, Nishant. Great questions so far. If you guys have any more, let us know. As he had mentioned, if you have any questions, you can reach out to them. Always feel free to reach out to us. We'll get you hooked up with them as well. But I mean, it's very cool. This is all about making sure that these networks, the data is protected, secured, from the beginning to the end. And so you can really provide yourself end-to-end security for your clients. It's kind of like, email nowadays. You really want to move forward without a spam blocker for it. So this is kind of like a proactive spam blocker for your entire network. You can go in there and manage it, protect those networks before that data ever gets to it. So very, very cool new solution. And looking forward to having a very tight partnership with them. So any other questions? Let's make sure. Question was any NFR discounts for them to play with and test?
The product is free for you to play with and test. So it's 100% discount right off the bat for an MSP. So we don't charge an MSP partners to evaluate a solution. Let us know if you're interested. We'll ship a solution to you, play with it. And then if you decide to go and roll it out to your customers, that's when we start charging you based on what you're charging your customers. It's just super flat and easy.
Excellent. It's very, very cool. Any other questions for Nishant? Again, if you think of some later on, if just look for contact info, whatever it happens to be, always just feel to reach out. But
yeah,
anything else right now? These are, again, great questions. And again, it just really shows, like I said, Retrospect, store-centric in general, and the dedication we're trying to push to networks across the board and making sure that that data is secure. Question, how do extenders work?
So we have great questions. So we have network. We have the ability to have multiple BrightGate units be deployed at larger sites where there can be a primary as well as a secondary. We've evaluated a couple of PoE solutions that can plug in and basically connect to the wired ports. We have a couple of evaluations ongoing right now where a Ubiquiti AP is connected to one of our wired ports, and we can continue to perform scanning underneath that as well. So you have two options. You can extend using a BrightGate gateway, a primary, and a BrightGate satellite solution, or use another AP downstream if you don't want to muck with your infrastructure too much, and then still get the security capabilities on the access capabilities of that system. So fantastic question.
Awesome. Anything else, you guys? Question. What is the cost per user? And
yeah, so we basically bucketize the cost per user, and you'll have specifics of this in the price sheet as well. But the introductory price for MSPs, sorry, go ahead. I thought there was a question, Werner.
No, so there's some sort of background, something coming in. But.
Okay, so the pricing is, we typically charge per user per month, and the entry-level pricing for 5 users is around $35 for those 5 users per month. And this is the $35 that the MSP typically is paying BrightGate. The MSP is welcome to put on their margin on top of that and resell. And where MSPs have been very successful with our solution is they already have either a site license or a per user license in their install base, and they're able to basically factor in the BrightGate costs underneath that for greater profitability, which takes away from the upfront hardware deployment costs for their clients as well. So we're pretty willing and open to working with MSPs, but in general, that's what I'm seeing with the existing install base that is working pretty well for both of us.
And then another question. So during testing and stuff, would they be able to get a hold of like an admin manual to really kind of get good look into exactly what's going on now? It's all working.
Yeah. So the admin manual is built right into the product. I'll just go back to the product and show you that right here. And you can always, if this is not clear, you have every single kind of capability right in your management UX. And then if you have questions or something's not working per plan, you can just log a ticket right through the admin portal itself. So everything is included in the solution.
Excellent. Thank you. Great questions, guys. Anything else for Nishant was there? Great. Well said. Looks like everything. Last minute ones, let us know. Again, thank you for showing this. It's, oh, we got a hold on question. So I think we have a question coming. So, but yeah, said, again, it's going to be a very, nowadays, again, security is the end all, said, we talk to people nonstop, and it's all about, yes, how do we protect it, other than, again, just the air gaps. And, again, we're just very, very excited about some of these new solutions and be able to partner up with you guys to really, be able to provide this secure solution. So one question, is there going to be a recording? Yes, we will actually have this recorded, and it'll be posted. We'll get you over those links for everybody here, so to make sure that you can reference it at a later point. And then another question, what is a user having lots of devices?
Great question. Yeah, so Mark, I see your question on the chat. So we don't charge you for the number of devices. Each appliance has like a max spec on how many devices it can support, and we haven't hit that maximum yet. We build the user based on the number of EAP users or the actual human device combination that is belonging on the secure network. We've seen, so we have a power user right now who is running his office of 10 employees. But on the IoT guest network, he has close to like 25, 30 devices, which includes pretty much every single gaming system you've seen out there, because it's running in his office environment, which is sitting next to a couple of video cameras, a few, essentially a smart coffee machine and a smart fridge as well. So we don't ration or build you out on the number of devices. It's typically on the number of users that are using that network infrastructure. And because we're selling through MSPs, we let the MSP tell us what's the best way of going about and billing a particular client. So don't worry about the fact that if you have 100 IoT devices, that your bill is going to be higher than the number of users that's on there. We don't do that.
Excellent. Great question. And sorry, do you tie the devices to the users?
The EAP, if you use the EAP login, then your the number of systems that the users log into is tied to the user. And because we don't tie the devices to the users, we typically maintain account of the users themselves. Again, going back to the MSP side of the story, the reason we built it this way is that our MSP partners, and I'm sure you guys will have feedback on this as well, felt more comfortable in aligning our user count with their billing solutions because they were charging their clients based on the number of users. And it just made more sense to kind of align with that because we're essentially tagging onto their billing systems at that point.
Excellent. Anything else?
There is a question from Kevin Bell. I don't know if we covered it. Is there support with migration to this platform? And that was asked at 11:14. Yes, the answer to that is yes. So just kind of making sure I answered that before I wrap up.
Oh, I thought I had actually heard you almost discuss that. So I was going, I think you kind of.
Okay. Thank you. Well, this is breaking doubly short.
Yeah. So if a user is fired, will all his or her devices be blocked?
Yes, because they can no longer log in using their EAP credentials. As soon as a user is fired, one thing happens, right? You go in and terminate their Office 365 or G Suite account, which renders their EAP login completely useless on the network. So they will no longer be able to log in or use those devices on the network anymore.
Excellent. Again, great questions, guys. Anything else from you guys? All right, looks to be quiet. Again, if there's anything, you let us know. And again, if you think of some later on or whatever, type them in. You guys know how to get a hold of me, and I know how to get a hold of him. So always feel free to just shoot them over to me, and I'll send them over a list, and I'm sure he'll be more than happy to answer and respond to anything he needs. So, well, thank you so much. I think we're all set here. And I said appreciate the time. I said again, look for a lot of great things moving forward. You'll see a lot of movement in regards to as we move forward with this partnership. So we'll keep you guys updated in regards to that. Watch for partner newsletters and stuff, and we'll keep you updated with all the latest and greatest information. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Werner. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate the time.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.